This is Sara. I'm with Mona the Macaw, and we are talking on Squawk Global.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Squawk Global Experience. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Emily.
And today we have Sara from a channel that you may have seen. Mona is a 18-year-old Scarlet Macaw and also is a rescue. We brought Sara on the show today to talk about Mona's story and seeing how that relationship came about and more in depth of what is happening in their life and everything like that. Sara, welcome to Squawk Global.
Hello. So excited to be here.
We're really happy for you to be here as well because we really want to talk to more guardians of rescues because we want to hear their story because unfortunately so many birds get rehomed. So the rescue story is not an uncommon thing. It's probably the most common thing in the bird world, but it is the truth and that's what we're bringing here. Sara, first of all, thank you for being here. Tell me a little bit more about your story with Mona. How did you find her and what's more of her background?
So Mona, I met back in 2017. I had moved from New York to San Diego with my now husband. We were about like a month or so into living there, and I missed my birds back home, with my family. And I stumbled across this sanctuary and rescue down the road from where we were living, and it was called Free Flight. I told my husband I would love to visit and check it out. It seems like a really special spot. I'll never forget like day one walking in there, seeing like the yard. It's a really great space. They have this big outdoor yard where all the birds can be from the morning until the late afternoon. There's just so much enrichment for them. There's so much to do, and it's open to the public so people can come and learn about parrots and husbandry and all of that jazz. And I walked in and immediately felt at home. And I think I got a membership like right there on the fly. I knew that I was going to spend a lot of time there. And I started going every day that I had off from work. I worked full time, so if I had 2 days off, I'd be there. It didn't take long, but eventually the staff there said, like, you're here all the time, you engage with the guests, you're knowledgeable about birds, would you like to volunteer? And so I did. There was one day, like a few months in, when I was in the yard, and I heard a bird behind me say, hola. And sure enough, I turn around, and I just see this beautiful Scarlet Macaw just standing there looking me up and down. And one of the staff members says, oh, that's Mona. If she's saying hi to you, then she's intrigued by you. I had never interacted with a big bird like that before, but I went up to her. She wanted to step up for me. And I just remember we were kind of staring at each other, like both in shock of each other's presence, because she was one of the biggest birds I had ever held at that point. It was like a click in that moment. It was so bizarre because I never had the intention when we moved out there to introduce another bird into my home. It wasn't on my radar to adopt a bird, but being at the sanctuary as often as I was, I think she just started seeing me regularly and was like, okay, you're normal. I'll entertain the thought of stepping up for you. From there, I started getting to know her a lot more because every time I would come into the sanctuary, she would want to interact. And so that's when I found out her background. And I found out that she had been there at that point for about 2.5 years. She came from St. Louis, Missouri. That's where she was from. Ironically, she was, I think, the only bird at the sanctuary where they had her hatch papers. When her old family relinquished her, they had all of that paperwork, which I have now. She'd been there for 2.5 years, and she didn't go to everyone. I feel like all parrots are picky with who they choose, but Scarlet Macaws they're just sassy. She was really hard for them to find a good family because she's mouthy, she's loud, and it's really hard for them to find homes. So I found out more of her story. She came from St. Louis. She was with her first family for about 7 years, and I think their intention of getting her was because they wanted an animal that was similar to a child, because you hear, oh, birds are so smart and they're talkative and they're this and they're that. So you get a baby macaw. And then years pass by, they reach sexual maturity, and they ended up having a child of their own, and it just ended up being too much for them. Somehow she made her way out to San Diego, and that's where she was relinquished to Free Flight. And they had her for about 2.5 years, and it was interesting because even when we first started connecting, my brain wasn't jumping to, I'm going to adopt this bird. I'm going to adopt her. I just knew I love going to the sanctuary. I love spending all my time here. I love this rapport that Mona and I have developed. And I love working with her and I love introducing her to people. As time progressed, staff would say, hey, Mona really loves you. And I'm like, yeah, I love her. And they'd be like, yeah, she doesn't love people as much as she loves you. Like they kind of
Yeah.
saw it blossoming, but they also were never they weren't gonna say like adopt her. They saw it forming and they said, okay, we see that. I think finally the time came where my husband and I were talking and he saw how strong that bond was. And he was like, I think if we're going to consider this adopting a bird, it would be Mona. And I was like, yeah, I think it would. And when I told the sanctuary about it, they were like, okay, we're waiting for this day.
Aw.
Um,
Oh,
yeah, they really were happy to hear it. They said it's one of their favorite love stories and success
Aw.
stories
that's
because
so
it
cool.
it just happened so naturally, and it happened over
Mhm.
time. It was 2017 when I first started working with her, and we didn't adopt her until 2019.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 2 years of really working with her, getting to know her, seeing her consistently, and then also making sure that she was accepting of my husband because
Mhm.
she's a big bird and everyone needs to be on board with that. Even when I told them, I think this is the route we want to take, they said, great, we're on board too. We just need to know that your husband is ready for that too. And she was I think I mentioned this before, she was very resistant towards him at first. And he had the patience of a saint. He dealt with some bites. He dealt with a lot of resistance. Flash forward to now, we've had her since 2019 and they're thick as thieves. So it ended up really working out, but it took a long time and I wouldn't have had it any other way because something like that shouldn't be rushed.
Mhm.
And she did have a few families before she met me that were interested in her that ended up backing out, probably because of a bite or because of the time that you need for them, the space you need for them. I feel like it's my life's love story, honestly, was meeting Mona and just knowing everything about her and what she'd been through and being the person that she chose.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
What an incredible story.
Oh, thanks.
Because I love your story because of the fact that I think that's exactly how it should be with birds. They should choose you versus, oh, that one's cute, so I want that one, or I want that specific species. That's not the right way about it. We feel the same way with Gizmo because
Yeah, it's exactly the
we
same
were
way.
actually going to rescue a Scarlet Macaw ourselves. Big Mulligan.
Yeah, he
He was
was a
a
big
he was
boy.
a big boy, but something about Gizmo just called out to us. I
Yeah.
mean, he was growling and aggressive, but something just told us that was him.
He was the one.
First of all, hats off to your husband too, because
Mhm.
he sounds like a really good guy. Being super supportive like that. And you're really right. A lot of people make the decision without their partner, and that can cause major stress in your relationship where an
Huge.
ultimatum usually is on the table, like me or the bird. And there are people who choose the bird,
Yep.
and there are people who obviously choose the partner. But then that puts that bird in that situation like, thanks. Like, I didn't ask for this, you know?
Exactly.
I didn't ask to be in your home that you're fighting, and now I'm an ultimatum,
Right.
and now I have to get rehomed, and hopefully I go to a nice home. And Mona being at the sanctuary for 2.5 years, that's probably not uncommon. We talked to Judy, who owns a rescue center, and some of the birds have been there for many years, and they'll probably never get adopted because of their age or they have a certain trait that people just don't like, you
Or
know?
an
Yeah.
illness.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
costs a lot of money to care for. They live at these sanctuaries, and it's just sad that they didn't choose these life.
Right. Right.
You shared a little bit about the challenges because you're going to be faced with them. No bird is easy. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care if you have a little
Mm-mm.
green cheek to a big macaw, they can be difficult to work with and they all face hormonal challenges. And
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you mentioned getting a baby because that is everybody's dream is I'll have one for my baby because I can raise it and they'll love me and they think I'm their family and
Yeah.
flock. But then hormones, we can't communicate on their communication level. We don't know what they're asking for, so they're going
No.
to take it out in ways that we are not anticipating with bites or
Yeah.
being aggressive or hating on Emily because my bird likes men right now or vice versa.
I
Yeah.
mean, it is crazy too, because it's funny you mention that you guys are going through preferences and who your bird prefers more. We're dealing with that right now too. Right now, Mona is choosing me as like public enemy number one and the husband is the good guy, you know?
Right.
Is she completely resents towards me? No, but I've noticed there are moments where if I'm going over to her to say hi, she'll kind of like give me side eye. I know her body language a lot more now to know when I just need to respect her space. And then she'll come around and she'll be like, okay, you can pick me up now. And okay, we can do our tricks together and training and you can give me scritches. But she goes through her preferences too, where sometimes she's all in for me or all in for him. And we just know now it's never personal. It's just her body and it's her mind. And I don't know what I would do if I was as intelligent as Mona was and I was as misunderstood as birds are when it comes to household dynamics. I always tell my friends it's like having a 3 or 4 year old child, but they can't share their thoughts or their frustrations or their needs with you. You have to think for them and put their best interests in mind. You can't blame them when they get frustrated and they scream or they bite or they throw their food bowl on the floor. It's part of it. They need so much patience, and people don't think about that. I can't tell you how many times people have said, like, oh, what would be a good starter bird? And I'm like, ugh,
Hmm.
No, none.
it's
Yeah. All of
so
them.
much more complicated than that. There is none. Are you passionate and you want to put in the work, or are you doing it because they're cute and they talk? What are the intentions? Because
Exactly.
there's no
And
beginner bird.
I don't like that phrase, starter bird.
Yeah,
What do you mean by starter bird? Are you building up to have this bird? What's going to happen to the other birds when you're fully qualified?
exactly.
Because a lot of people do that. They get multiple birds and they're like, okay, this doesn't fit in my life. And I understand we've tried to adopt, we've rescued other birds in between our two, and some don't fit in your household.
Yeah.
But yeah, the starter bird
Yeah.
is like,
It almost implies like I'll start with a budgie. This is kind of fun. Let me get a conure now. I
Right.
always wanted a macaw. Let me just go ahead and ditch these guys for the macaw now because I have an experience. I don't think you're
Right.
ever experienced, to
no.
be honest. Like, as
Yeah.
many comments I've seen in our comments on Squawk Global of people saying, I am learning every day and I've had
Hmm.
birds for 30 years, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the truth is I don't think we'll ever know
We
is
won't.
because we're not
Right.
supposed to know.
We're not supposed to know. They're wild animals, and
Exactly.
it would take hundreds and hundreds of years to actually know this stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm passionate about they shouldn't be in our home.
Right.
We can't change the birds that we have in our home. We can't just
Right.
say, okay, Gizmo, just go fly.
Yeah. Take off.
Because he
Yeah.
can't fly, for one.
Right.
He doesn't know how to find food. He doesn't know enemies, so we can't do that. And this is a thing that we're trying to tell people. We're not saying you have to get rid of your birds. We're not saying that. That can't
Right.
happen.
Right.
My dream is when I'm far gone is that a child asks their mum, why were birds in homes? Why
Yeah.
were they in cages? And the
Yeah.
mom has to tell them the story and the big legend of why they were in there and why they're not now. That is our goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because they have wings, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
They have
Right.
wings.
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't until one of our recent guests, Robin, where she went to Costa Rica to see a sanctuary where the macaws got to fly freely.
Yeah.
I would consider her a parrot expert. She's a behavioral consultant for parrots, like trained, board certified. But she said it wasn't until seeing them how tiny they looked in these massive trees that she realized that our homes alone are a tiny cage, let alone the cage that they live in.
Exactly.
And it just we think about that and it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But
Exactly.
I want to switch you back to Mona
Yep.
quick. What are some of Mona's personality traits that you just love about her? What are some of the things that she does?
She's so inquisitive. I always say you can't spell FOMO without Mo because her nickname is Mo. Whatever we're doing, she wants to be involved in. So, of course, there are certain things where, for her own safety, we have to keep off her radar, I'll say. But if I'm folding laundry, she wants to be in the basket, sifting through everything. If I'm cleaning the space, if I'm sweeping, she's following the broom. She's so inquisitive. And I love that about her because anytime I'm trying to show her something new, she's more open to it than she is afraid of it because she's almost following my lead. She sees, okay, if you're doing that, then I'm cool. I can get into that too. So I love how inquisitive she is and how involved she loves to be. And I love her sass. Scarlet macaws are so sassy. They're so sassy, but I love it. It's part of her personality. It's who she is. And just how smart she is. She just picks up on things really well. She's very in tune with us and our dynamic. If I'm training her with any type of enrichment, whether it's we're learning colors or I have this little toy xylophone for her. She's interested in learning about it. And sometimes she'll want to play with it and just smash it and thrash it because she's a bird. And I don't blame her for wanting to do that. Sometimes she really does want to learn if I pick up this stick. Okay, now where do I put it? She's very affectionate with us too. Of course, she tells us when she wants to be snuggled and she wants to sit up and be a potato with us. She is really affectionate, and it's so funny because I feel like we're the only two that really get to see that side of her. Everyone else, she's very put off towards other people. But we have such a sweet dynamic with her where she'll be with me and she'll tap me with her tongue a bunch of times, and then she'll want to go over to my husband and she's like, okay, I want pets from you and I'm going to tap your nose with my tongue a bunch of times. And that's like the best feeling in the world, is to just feel adored by her, really.
Definitely. And is there anything that she dislikes so much?
Yeah, there's a few things. I was saying that she likes to follow the broom, but she has a vendetta against dustpans. So, like, when I'm sweeping, I actually have to try to get my sweep pile outside of the room and close the door, because if she sees the dustpan, you can't keep her away from it. So she absolutely hates the dustpan. That's like enemy number one. The vacuum, we're still trying to find out if she hates it or not, because she gets very excited when she sees it, but she doesn't try to necessarily attack it like the broom. So that one we're wary of. And, we're 5 years in now with her. And sometimes I'm still like, I don't know if you love or hate this. I think it's a loud object. So
Yeah,
she sees it and she's like, is that louder than me? I don't think so. But yeah,
definitely.
I would say the dustpan is the biggest thing. And it's random things. I learned the hard way that she doesn't like lids to jars, because I was opening a jar once when I was holding her and she came down my arm. So I thought she was like just being her curious self. And sure enough, she got me on the thumb. And that was my fault. It's always our fault if they're biting us, because we're missing the cues and the signs that they're trying to
Definitely.
give us. It'll be random things like that where now I've just learned, okay, if it's a new object, like present it from afar and proceed with caution. But I would say, yeah, probably dustpans. I mean, the vet. Do they ever like the vet? She doesn't like the vet, but she's open to going into her carrier because her carrier doesn't always mean the vet. We try to associate certain things that can be associated with the negative with still being positive. Like, she loves going in the car with us. So sometimes we'll just say, okay, we're going in the carrier because we're just going to go in the car. And that she likes.
How big is a carrier for a macaw?
Oh my gosh. Well, is there really a carrier big enough for them?
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, we kind
No,
of,
like,
yeah, we have a system in the car where we'll sit in the back seat with her. And it's like one of those pet taxis that's actually for dogs, but we got it for her just to transport her in and out. But we have a perch that we attach onto the door on the outside. And one of us will sit in the back seat with her and the perch will go across our lap. And she loves traveling that way. It's not my favorite because it's not the safest method of traveling, but she is way less anxious, and she's a barber. I don't know if you've seen like in the videos, but she barbs her feathers. It's a habit she developed when she was relinquished to the sanctuary, and some days are better than others for her. But if she doesn't want to be in that, she'll barb. So we have a setup in the back seat where we'll sit with her, and she's so content there, and she loves doing that. But yeah, a long-winded answer to the question is there's really no carrier big enough, especially for a scarlet macaw's tail.
Yeah,
yeah, I
exactly.
can't even imagine. We have
Yeah.
a travel cage. It's pretty big. Gizmo's so much smaller, and macaws have the biggest tail.
Yeah. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any safe way to transport a bird. Just because Gizmo's in a carrier doesn't mean that if something happened, that carrier wouldn't go flying a bit, and we try to buckle it in, but sometimes he could get to the strap and bite that, and I don't want him to damage my car that my kids need that strap.
Fair.
So, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like
Totally.
people say, oh, I saw a video that doesn't look safe. I don't think any way is safe. You can't strap them in.
Yeah, I can't
There's
like
like
just put a seatbelt across her chest. Yeah.
but we have to do it to get them to safe places like vets or get them out and explore because
Yeah.
I think that's important. We take Gizmo on walks all the time. We've taken him to the city because down in the city, there's restaurants that have patios, and we take him to the patio and have lunch or something with him.
Yeah.
People think we're just super like those weird bird people.
Weird.
They're like, oh, here come those weird bird people with this huge, like, stroller pushchair thing with their bird.
I want those so bad. I want one of those
I
so
don't
bad.
care.
Yeah. Oh no.
I don't care. I'm like, yeah, I'm taking my bird out. He deserves to be out in the sunshine and enjoying life.
Yeah.
We spoke to Claire in York yesterday. That's a
Blue and gold macaw.
blue and gold macaw. We were actually gutted that we didn't discuss this because it's not some things that people think of. Their morning poo. Like Gizmo's morning
Yeah.
Pew.
Gizmo's morning poo is huge. So is our little macaw.
Our little conure.
Oh my gosh, our little conure.
I know what you meant.
How big is it?
I'm not even kidding. I had a video on my TikTok once, and I think they flagged it because it was just probably so gross. But she took a morning poop once, and I put my hand next to it, and it was almost, of course she was perched up, so I'm sure there was a little bit of a
Flash,
ricochet, but
Yeah.
still, it was almost the size of my hand. Like, I put my hand next to it, and my hand was not much bigger than it. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's ginormous.
It is.
And like it requires several paper towels. If it's not on her perch in her stand where she can just go on newspaper and then I fold it up. If it's on the ground, I'm like, okay, this is like a 2-minute project cleaning this up.
Totally.
Yeah, we mentioned that because some people are like, oh my gosh, these guys are so cute, but they poo a lot. So like you have to be prepared to be a poo cleanup person. You're now a janitor of your bird.
Exactly.
Full time.
And a lot of people ask, oh, are they house trained? No.
Yeah.
No, they're literally poo when they want to.
Yeah.
If it's on your lap, your back,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the couch.
Some birds are somewhat know of places to go. They kind of are trained, but you still can't train them fully like they're a bird.
Right. And also, it can't be healthy for them. Mona's interesting. She prefers to go to the bathroom on her perch. If we're holding her and we're sitting on our bed or something with her, she will like steer us to the perch and then she'll go to the bathroom there. But she can go wherever she wants. For me, I'm never going to potty train her because I can't imagine it's healthy. They poop as frequently as they do for balance and for their metabolism. There's so many reasons why. I've told people too, because I feel like people often ask me about their poop. And I know this might be a crazy take, but I will take all of that bird poop versus dog or cat poop any day. It's obviously like you're cleaning it up constantly. It's going to be on your couch. It's going to be on your clothes. But people are like, oh, that's crazy. They're just pooping on your couch. I'm like, yeah, but it's way easier to clean up than the explosion that you just told me your dog had last week. But it is frequent and it is all over and you do have to clean it constantly. We have so many different cleaners, whether it's on the wood floor, on the couch, on your shirt. So many different ones that we have on hand for that.
Do you go through clothes more often because of poops?
Yeah, or I'll have designated articles of clothing that I'll wear that I'm not as worried about having to put through the wash if she gets something on it. Or honestly, for us, it's more so the holes. A busy beak is a happy beak. So I will wear specific shirts that I know I'm like, she's probably going to want to tear into this one. And that's okay. If she's going to put a hole in it, she's just doing what birds do. We have a designated wardrobe for poop and beak.
Yeah.
Beak work.
That's common. I have designated shirts as well because like there's certain shirts I just won't wear or I'll change into when we're leaving, like my normal clothes. Because if I wear my good clothes and I forget, you're always like, told you to change, because my conure specifically will destroy my stuff. She's destroyed all my good things.
Yep.
From belt, hats, shirts, shoelaces,
Like
trousers.
anything with gems in.
Oh, gems, yeah.
Oh, that's a favorite.
Gems, goodbye. Like, they're gone. We like to say these truthful things because if people are looking to get a bird, it's like, do you like your stuff? Because if you love your
Nothing
stuff,
sacred.
not a Good thing.
Yeah.
We're going to put together a video soon of going through all of our Apple Care expenses because we have been to the Apple Store countless times and have used our Apple Care very well, but we still had to pay out of pocket for a lot of things. MacBooks, iPads,
Oh,
phones.
yeah.
We've been there many times because
Multiple
one,
times.
like if your MacBook's open and then fly to it,
One bite.
1 second, one
Yeah.
bite, screen's cracked,
Yeah.
keyboards. Oh
Oh
my
yeah, the
gosh.
key.
The keys. These
Yeah.
1 second, goodbye.
It's effortless for them.
You could be mad at them in a moment, but they're like, what's the problem here? I'm a bird. That's what we do.
Have you
Yeah.
had anything that's damaged quite badly?
She's gotten into everything over the years. She actually goes through phone chargers like you wouldn't believe. I have a system now where when I'm not charging my phone, it's coiled up and I keep it in my nightstand. She's gotten the corners of if you have a nightstand or a coffee table and she climbs down the couch or the bed when you're not looking, or her cage if you're not looking, if she's on top. She's gotten into furniture. We used to have a really nice leather couch. It was a hand-me-down, but it was a great couch. And sure enough, she chewed a hole in the back center of it. We honestly were like, well, we can't buy a whole couch right now. Like, that's not what we were factoring into our monthly budget. So we just put a pillow over it and we were like, okay, we just got to rock with that. That's the thing, is we can't be mad at her because she's a bird and that's how it is. But I feel like that's not something everyone can do. And I get that if they can't, because if you are a materialistic person, but that's where I really like to share with people whenever they say they want a bird or this and that. I'm just like, you really got to put the bird first, like
Mhm.
above all else. No matter what Mona does, if it's not deemed right, I'm never gonna resent her for it because she's just working with the surroundings that she has. And again, we're saying she's meant to be in the wild, in a tree, in a canopy somewhere, going to town on something just naturally. And she doesn't get that. She'll always have a pass in my book, like whenever she gets into anything. But then I also want to proceed on the edge of caution because, of course, I don't want her to get into anything that can be harmful to her. So I'm really just chasing her around when we have our free time, just making sure if she is getting into anything, I'm like, okay, yeah, you can go to town on that. Or I'm like, no, I don't think that's safe for you. Her newest thing is books, actually, now that we're talking about it. She loves knocking the books I'm reading off my nightstand and chewing them up. So whenever I'm reading a new book, I have to keep it in a separate room. Yeah.
Yeah. You just get to the best part and then you realize that
Yep.
she just chewed all the good bits and I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, oh,
no, I
chapter
don't know how
34,
this
come on.
ends.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So she keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, I just saw a video of a guy with his gray and it bit a collector's edition of this specific book that is like one of the
Oh.
rarest things. You could tell that he was mad, but I could tell that he'd be the guy that would never like
Right.
take it out on his bird because he's
Right.
you do have to think about those things and you have to lock up all your stuff. The charger thing is hilarious. You go,
Oh,
We
I-
don't even know
yeah.
how many. Probably, we're talking probably in the thousands
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like-
I mean,
that we spent on charges.
$1,000 of
Yeah.
chargers, yeah, probably. Good chargers are not cheap in Canadian, between $30 and $50 just for the lead. And we try to do the exact same thing where we're cautious.
Yeah, because we don't want to shock them.
Yeah.
You know,
right. Exactly.
So,
But we are cautious about them as well. But sometimes you're just busy or you go do one quick thing. Oh, I'll be right back. And that's how fast they can be,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's crazy like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But-
She'll get into something and find a way if we're not keeping an eye on her. It's so interesting, too, because I have friends with kids. And one of my girlfriends was one time asking me, like, what is your routine like with Mona? What is life like with Mona? And I just went through, like, here's our morning routine. Here's our nighttime routine. Here's all the things I have to be aware of. And when I was done, she literally sat there and she was like, that sounds so, so similar to the routine with my 4-year-old daughter. And it was so validating because it was, for me, I do feel like Mona is this person just in the body of a parrot. I can't imagine what that would be like. I would be running amok everywhere too, trying to be like, do you hear what I'm trying to say? I need this, I need that. And oh my gosh, you're not doing that. So now I'm going to destroy your cupboard. It was so validating just because the birds do really keep your hands full. And it's so much work. It's so much supervision and responsibility. It's worth it though. It's
I
so
can vouch as a mother of 4.
yeah.
Although we're out of practice now because our youngest is 12. When our birds are out and roaming, you can't relax. Just like you would say a toddler
Yeah.
to a 4-year-old, oh, what's this plug socket? Let me just stick my finger in. You're just constantly chasing them
Right.
around. And it's hard. When our birds are out, and they're out a lot, you can't actually fully relax. And people need to understand that. You
Mhm.
can have your cuddles,
Yep.
but still, even when I'm cuddling Gizmo, he can still turn.
Right.
Nothing's safe. I don't think people
Yeah.
understand that you'll never fully relax with a bird
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they are wild animals and they would just want to explore and do bad
Right.
things.
And toddlers do the exact same thing.
Yes.
Actually, when you're cuddling them, they're being sweet, and then they headbutt you because they're pissed.
Yeah. There you go.
But they do that. They're just being cute, and then they hit you really
Yeah.
hard with their
Oh, that
head.
just hit you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they are
Because
trying
they
to express themselves. Like,
express.
I'm over this cuddle right now, and I'm hungry.
Yeah.
But birds
Yeah.
are the exact. If you were going to look into a bird, they're cute and they're sweet. But you have to remind yourself: do you want to sign up to be a parent of a toddler for the rest of your life?
Yeah. That's what I tell people. I'm like, it's so ironic because our parents, when we're growing up, always talk about eventually becoming empty nesters. And I tell people when you have a bird in your family, it's never going to be an empty nest. It's forever. That's your responsibility for decades on decades. And they need consistency. They need so much patience. They need your time. They need all of it. You can't pick and choose what days you're going to give 10% and which days you're going to give 100% because they feel all of it and they suffer. We'll never suffer like they will. I love when people are passionate and want to get involved, but I also want to be so careful with how I am explaining having a bird and being a guardian. Once you cross that threshold and you take that bird in, you really got to stick it out and be there for them. It's weird because I always want to encourage people, if you're doing it for the right reasons, then it is worth it, but it is not for the faint of heart. And it's not going to be, oh, I have this bird who talks and they're so fun and they do this and that. There are so many challenges that come with it. If that's something you're passionate about, then it feels worth it. I'm always so conflicted when people come to me asking, because I'm like, well, what is the intention behind it? How invested are you? Because if you're not all in, what was the statistic? I think I read it was like 85% of birds are rehomed, at least in the US. I'm assuming almost everywhere, but 85% will be rehomed at least once in their lifetime. And I think they're the number one rehomed pet as well, on top of dogs and cats, which we already know how crazy that epidemic is, but then birds even more so. I always feel so bad because I never want to be a Debbie Downer when people are asking me about it, but I'm like, it's a lot of work and a lot of responsibility. If you live near a sanctuary or rescue, volunteer. It's not for the faint of heart.
So this leads me into my next question. Have you got a plan? Because she's 18?
She's 18, yeah, and we're in our 30s. So honestly, I go through different ones in my head of what estate planning can we have. Obviously, the last resort fallback would be how could we get her back to the sanctuary if something ever happened to us, because we always know she would be in the safest hands there. And they said that too. They always said if something ever happens, promise us that she would come back here if you don't have a reputable family or someone to take care of her if something happened to you guys. But thankfully, we have a pretty big family, and I come from a family of bird people. So I feel very lucky in that sense that there's several options for us if, God forbid, something happened to us and Mona needed guardians. But between that and then the sanctuary, really, it's just making sure we have funds to support her to be okay, this is to put towards Mona, whether it's you got to start fresh with her because we're not here anymore, God forbid. Yeah, it's weird being in my 30s and trying to have literally a plan for what if this happened and how can we make sure that Mona is safe and what's the safest course for her. I know that going to a sanctuary, like going back, would be really hard for her, but if God forbid no one else could, that's her safest space. So making sure that she could be there safely or get there safely. But Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough question, but we were asked by we had
It's so
Judy
real
who
though.
was on our recent episode, and it's a really good one. If you haven't listened to it, definitely go listen. She asked us that question. We were like, we still have so much time left, and she's like, okay, but something can happen to you tomorrow, because she works at a rescue center where people said the exact same thing, and something happened that week where they no longer could care for them unexpectedly. And what do you do in those situations? So I think it
Yeah.
is important, and we should have those in place for our animals anyways, regardless, but it's so much easier to rehome a cat or a dog. I
Yeah.
could probably
Absolutely.
find an owner for my dog in the next 10 minutes because
Right.
so many people love her so much. But our bird, I don't
Yeah.
know if any
Mm-mm.
of our friends would be like, no. And our
Yeah.
kids, we only have one child who, and that's fair enough. We're never going to force our choices on them. And we only have one child who's 12 who said that she'd be the one that wants to take them. The other ones are like, hell no, because they see how
Yeah.
much work it is and they enjoy their freedom.
Right. Right.
It's crazy, but it is that responsibility. And especially if you're going to a breeder, people think in their mind, they think only very short term. When they hear those numbers, it's like saying living to 100. We don't think of it because we can't live that experience. We don't
Right.
understand what that means. And we don't look at the time and think of all the time that has passed since those
Yeah.
things. And we're constantly evolving and human beings, like, what we don't like, things happening, new relationship, children, family, people being sick. And you don't think of when you get that bird and thinking, let's say 50 years on average,
Yeah.
you don't think of the 50 years in between of all the life changes that are going to occur. And
Exactly.
is that bird going to fit into every single life change?
Mm-hmm.
There's
Right.
going to reach a point where that bird now becomes a very resistance to some of those changes. And are you willing
Right.
to go through that?
Yeah.
And it's hard for us as human beings to understand that or think that far, but I think we need to. We need to
Yeah.
really think deeply and just leave these guys where they belong in the wild, because
Yeah.
that we don't have the time capacity to understand that. And I
Right.
think if we can't do that as human beings, that is a signal to say this is not okay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? This is not okay.
It's so true. It's so true. And again, like with the estate planning and making sure they have a space too. Yeah, it's traumatizing for them, even if they go to the next best option. Even if you take them with you and your life changes, but if something happens to you where you're not in the picture anymore and you can't be their guardian, the next best option is it's so hard for them to go through that and to endure that. And exactly the lifespan that they have. One is 18. And I always say, like, my life dream is that she and I get to grow old and be crazy together. I want to be that crazy old lady on her front porch with her bird, but that's like the pipe dream. But it's so sad how many elderly macaws that I saw at the sanctuary that were in the same home for 30 years, sometimes more, and then they were displaced. It's so sad because, like we're saying, they never asked for this. And whenever I talk to people about it, I'm like, it's so tough because I dream of a world where they're not these household pets anymore because they were never meant to be. And I hope there's a world that can come where that's not the case anymore. But now we're in this crossroads where there's so many displaced birds that now rely on a human to feed them and care for them. How do we find the happy medium of really starting to make this difference? And I think one of them is going to be stopping breeders, and pet stores is the first place to start, and hoping a snowball effect can come from there because it's crazy.
That's
That was
what we're
amazing. Yeah, that was amazing.
That's what our mission as Squawk Global is. Hopefully that one of these episodes or one clip can make the decision of saying, oh, wait a minute. Thank you. You just made me realize this, or
Yeah.
I don't need that bird in the pet store, or advocating or stepping up and saying, now I'm going to be an advocate just like you and going to step up and help and spread the message, because it's really important and it has to start somewhere. And there's not enough voice in the world for these guys. Can we make a ripple effect? Can today's chat with you, Sarah, can it create a little bit of a ripple somewhere that creates a longer term effect? And that's what the goal is. And we're hoping that does. So the people who are listening, if this has changed the perspective of you, leave it in the comments. Let us know, because that is showing that our impact matters. What we're saying matters.
Yeah, and just start having these conversations with other people, because I think the more people that are aware of the crisis these parrots are in and how much worse it's going to be, the more that are being bred, then we can start making a difference.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people that are listening to this that want to learn more about Mona. Can you let us know how people can find your channel and let them know where they can find you to go follow Mona today?
Yeah, you can find us if you search us on TikTok, on Instagram. We're under the handle Mona the Macaw. We do have a YouTube channel as well that I'm trying to become more active in. I am sometimes so bad with my consistency on the internet, but we do have a YouTube channel as well, and that is also under the handle of Mona the Macaw. Even if you Google it, I think all three might pop up.
That's perfect. I'll make it easy for everybody that's watching this. Just head to the description notes of either this YouTube channel or the show notes of the podcast, and you'll be able to find links directly to Mona's channels so you can go subscribe, follow, and please share her amazing content over there. But Sara, this was a great conversation. We love learning so much more about Mona. My favorite part was her vendetta against dustpans. That's just hilarious
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
But, yeah,
Lifelong vendetta.
what a wonderful story. And we definitely appreciate the time today.
We do. And this is not going to be the last time we talk to you.
No,
Oh,
Because,
yeah.
we've just scratched the surface. And yeah, we love your energy and we love what you're doing.
Thanks so much. It's been so great talking to you guys too, and I'm so excited to see what's gonna become of Squawk Global, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again. This was the best.
thanks so much again for being on Squawk Global, and we'll talk to you soon.
This is Sara. I'm with Mona the Macaw, and we are talking on Squawk Global.